So today we're starting a new video series on the book of Proverbs and the cardinal virtues. I actually taught this class earlier this year at our church here in Olympia, Washington, and I chose this topic because these two sources of ancient wisdom, the book of Proverbs and the cardinal virtues, are both trying to answer this one big fundamental question, which is, what is the best way to live, right? And that's what the study of ethics is really about. It may sound like a dry or academic subject, but that's really what it's trying to get at. What is the best way to live? And perhaps for some of you, that question seems too big and there's no way to answer it. Or for others of you, you have a ready answer to that, and it's a kind of a simple question. But I'll say this for the book of Proverbs and for the cardinal virtues. They both take the question very seriously, and they both claim that their own advice is really worth listening to. They both claim to have some particular insight into the question. So, for instance, listen to the way the book of Proverbs talks about its own advice. The book of Proverbs will say that if you'll follow its advice, you'll be rewarded beyond anything you desire. Elsewhere, Proverbs promises honor, grace, beauty, clever speech, a long life, riches, and power. So those are some pretty extreme claims. And the cardinal virtues are no different. So listen to what Joseph Pieper had to say. Joseph Pieper was a 20th century German philosopher. He wrote a lot on the virtues, and I think he's really insightful. We'll no doubt talk about him more in this video series. But listen to what he had to say about the cardinal virtues. He said that the four cardinal virtues can enable man to attain the furthest potentialities of his nature. So it's hard to imagine a bolder claim for the cardinal virtues than this, that whatever potential you have as a human being can be actualized to the extent that you have the four cardinal virtues, at least according to Pieper. So that's a pretty impressive set of claims. Now, each of the classes that we did with my church were over an hour long. I don't think anyone wants hour-long videos from me on this. So instead, what my plan is to chunk these up into smaller sections where we just kind of address one big idea per video. So that's the plan. We'll see how it goes. And for this first one, I'd like to just look at the title of the series, which I'm calling In Harmony with the Universe. Okay, In Harmony with the Universe. So what do I mean by that? It sounds perhaps a little on the hippie side. And so I'd like to explain what I mean by that title. So first of all, I would say that the book of Proverbs and the cardinal virtues both have this one thing in common, and that they would say that you have, as a human being, you have an interior and an exterior, all right? So the exterior part of you is the part that we can see. This is the part of you that acts and speaks and sort of engages in social life, that kind of thing. But you also have this interior component, right, which you might call consciousness, or you might call the inner life or something like that. But you've got this interior component of you. And both of these sources would say that that interior part of you is really important, all right? That's a crucial part of who you are as a human. And I think so far this isn't particularly controversial, right? The idea that it's who you are on the inside that matters is a pretty well accepted idea. A lot of people would agree with that. But I'm not sure that a lot of people would agree with what they would say next. And what they would say next is that interior part of you that's so important is not by nature what it ought to be. So none of us are born being who we ought to be. So that means that our habits, our inner thoughts, even our desires themselves are not what they ought to be. They need to be trained to become in conformity with the universe, or to become in conformity with reality. All right? So that's kind of the idea, is that to be in harmony with the universe means that in your inner being, right, in your core, in what Proverbs calls the heart, you are in conformity with the reality of the exterior world. That's a bit, that's a bit abstract. And so maybe I can give an example that'll make it a little more concrete. So as I mentioned, the Daskams moved from Texas out here to the state of Washington. We're in Western Washington. And, being out here, things grow really well. There's a lot of rain. There's some sun in the summer, but there's so much rain that things just grow well here. And so let's say that we're interested in starting a garden here in Washington. And indeed we are. Just today we were working on our planting boxes. But say that we wanted to grow a garden, and we came from Texas, and we said, in Texas, we ate a lot of okra, and we like okra, right? We don't think it's snotty. We think it's delicious. You can fry it, you can pickle it, it's good stuff, and we want to grow okra out here in Washington. And imagine someone responded to us and said, I'm glad that you like okra. That's fine. I don't think you're going to have much success with it out here because this is a wet and cool climate, and okra does really well with kind of hot and dry weather. So you're going to have trouble growing okra. And what if we responded and said, yeah, but this is part of our history. This is kind of who we are. We're okra eaters, right? And it's healthy food, and we want to do it, and so we're just going to go ahead and grow okra, right? Now, if this individual was still willing to talk to us and to give us any advice, they might say, listen, if you want to see real produce, right? If you want to be productive, and if you want to see success in this, you're going to have to submit yourself to the realities of the external world. Okay, you're going to have to pay attention to the seasons and to the temperature, these predictable seasons that bring rain and sun and ice. And if you don't pay attention to those, and if you don't submit yourself to the reality of those, then you're not going to have success. But if you'll do it, right? If you'll pay attention to reality, and if you'll even go so far as to say, I desire what naturally wants to grow here, right? If you'll submit yourself to reality to that extent, that you'll say what we want to grow, or the things that naturally want to grow here, well, then there's really no limit to how successful you can be in gardening here in the Pacific Northwest. So I think the insight of Proverbs and the cardinal virtues, and an insight that runs counter to a lot of the kind of ethical thinking of our day, that runs counter to a lot of people's answers to the question of what is the best way to live, is this, that perhaps what is true in gardening is also true in ethics, is also true when it comes to the question of what is the best way to live. To answer the question of what is the best way to live may involve recognizing that there's a reality outside of your inner life. And to the extent that you can conform yourself and submit yourself to the realities of a universe. And for the cardinal virtues and for the book of Proverbs, this was, for both of them, this was a reality that was created by God, a universe that was created by God, and it had order. Right? So to the extent that you can sort of harmonize yourself with that order of the universe, you can be successful regarding the question of what is the best way to live. And so that's what I mean by being in harmony with the universe. I wish there was time to talk about it more, and I guess there will be in the videos that are to come, but I just wanted to give some explanation of the title in this first one. So in the weeks to come, what I hope to do is to look at this question further and to talk more about what are the cardinal virtues, right? There are these 4 cardinal virtues of wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. And those 4 virtues, do those show up in the book of Proverbs? Are they there? And if so, what does the book of Proverbs say about them? Does the book of Proverbs agree that these are important virtues? And so that's what we're going to look at in the videos to come. If that's interesting to you, then I hope you'll stick with it, and I hope you'll keep watching these videos. If not, no problem. But I hope this is a topic that's of interest to you as it is to me. Thanks so much.